What is up, guys? Speed here, and today I'm back. Did you miss me? It's been one full video, but I'm back with another YouTube video, and today we are going to be going over 5 plays that you should be making in Dota. I think there's just a few plays in general that people understand or they have an idea about, but they just don't execute in their game. So I'm going to go over the top 5 ones that you really need to consider in order to raise an MMR. These are points that people just don't use for no good reason, and if you use them, you'll win. So first off is buying Force Staff and Glimmer Cape. Now, the best 5 supporting items in Dota are Wand, Boots, Urn, Glimmer Cape, and Force Staff. Who cares about career and wards? Those don't count. But many people buy the first 3, right? They'll buy the Wand, they'll buy the Boots, they'll buy the Urn, which is great. But for some unforsaken reason, supports won't buy Force Staff or Glimmer Cape. These 2 items win team fights. Cores in the mid and late game typically die in the first 2 or 3 seconds of getting gone on. And Glimmer and Force Staff can help your Jug get Omni Slash off, or let your Troll get his ult off, whatever that spell is called. I don't know what it's called, but I don't want to look it up. Hopefully you get the point. It just allows your teammates to get off their BKBs, get their Yules off, get their ultimate off, whatever it is, Primal, Split, Doom, who cares? It buys you time and guarantees that your important hero can get his important item or spell off, and that is what is most important as a support. In addition, these items are very, very cheap. For some reason, I had an AA buy a Linken's when I was like 3k, and I genuinely thought that was good. An AA rush Linken Sphere. That kid scarred me. Whoever you are, I'm going to come hunt you down. You're an awful person. Also, the last thing to note is that Glimmer Cape gives 45% magic resistance for 5 seconds. Please stop and think about how much 45 is. 45%? What other item gives 45% of anything? I mean, I guess you could say BKB gives 100% magic resistance, but like, 45% for 5 seconds? The only downside to this item is that I can get this spell, but like, who cares? 45%, I'm buying that item every single game. Next point is covering wards. Now, this is a play that I actually don't think people use at all, or basically never. But the point is, if you've probably felt before that you just can't go high ground. Well, the better play is just to sit on a ward. Even with Aegis, right? Even with Aegis. Understand that going high ground without a siege hero, or against good deep push, such as a hero like Coddle, Zeus, or Sniper, can be the biggest mistake of a game. Sure, sometimes running it down high ground can win you the game, right? You can get lucky, but the more reliable play is to place a ward on an aggressive high ground and sit close to it. If the enemy comes out, you'll get the jump, maybe even on a key target, and if they don't, you'll gain a net worth lead very, very quickly, right? Because you're going to be pushing in the lanes, your core can just farm the jungle, it doesn't matter. You're going to get a net worth lead. In addition, fighting around vision is just ridiculously underutilized in all solo queue games. In all brackets, right? It really doesn't matter where you are in Dota, people just won't play around wards. This is why supporting can be frustrating sometimes, but even if you don't have Aegis, and it's not about going high ground, if you're going to take a fight, place a ward. Place a ward. This goes down for all support players. If you're going to take Rosh, place a ward. If you're going to go for the top tier 2 tower, place a ward. Just play around wards. Number 3 is avoiding fights. Carry players will often get pressured by their teammates to come fight when their true objective is to hit a late game timing around 30 or 40 minutes. It can even be like 20-25, but it kind of depends on how good you are at farming. If you're a hero such as Anti-Mage, Terrorblade, or a Battle Fury carry, avoid the majority of fights. Now, if you're a support player or an offlane player, you're going to hate me for saying this, but you have to consider that in some games, your role is to make space for the carry, and that your carry genuinely needs 3 or 4 items to win you the game. I recently made a video on clarifying between when you should AFK farm or not. Like, so if you're the carry player and you're unsure, like you hear this point like, oh, I should just farm every single game. No, please watch that video. It has a Jug thumbnail, and it will open your eyes on when you should be farming and when you shouldn't be. Now, going into probably one of the most important points, and that is split pushing. First off, if you're split pushing, target the range creep first if possible when pushing with illusions or just in general, right? The fastest way to relieve pressure on a wave, even if you don't completely finish it, is by killing the range creep. If you're not doing anything thought intensive with your main hero, or you're just moving to a destination, farming a camp, whatever it is, if you have illusions and you're doing this, like you're just kind of moving around, being a little bit AFK, then use your illusions and summons, maybe your hero like Lycan, to guarantee you get all the last hits. I see a lot of players just get 2 or 3 from a wave, maybe even 1, simply because they're not paying attention. Really try to maximize efficiency and let your main hero auto-attack a camp while you get last hits as your illusion. Also, what's really cool about split pushing, and an idea that people don't really consider, is that you can relieve pressure from lanes by cutting them close to the enemy tier 1, tier 2 tower, instead of actually going to the creep wave directly. This is called creep cutting, and what it allows you to do is stay close to objectives. The problem is most of the time, let's say there's a creep wave at your tier 2 tower, and you have to run all the way back to go get it just to push a tower. You're going to waste so much time just running there that you could have farmed 3 or 4 camps on the way. If you split push and cut the wave in, you're going to allow yourself to spend the downtime of your creeps walking to the tower actually farming. This will increase your efficiency so much, and not only that, you don't have to fight with creeps in order to get the actual CS. Think about which lanes that are actually like worth split pushing in. Split pushing can often feel very dangerous and maybe even useless if you're unclear about how to do it, as often it will get you killed or you're going to have a lot of downtime because you're not sure what to do next. Often I see a lot of players when they're playing someone such as Beastmaster or Abaddon, Nature's Prophet, all these heroes that have great split pushing potential, or heroes that can split push very effectively because they're hard to kill or get on top of due to units or just innate survivability, they don't go far enough. If you ever push in one wave in a lane and you go to hit a jungle camp as a hero such as Beast, Abba, or Nature's Prophet, and you know that the enemy team is on the opposite side of the map, you're making a huge mistake. There's a couple of reasons why. Basically, you're not maximizing your farm. A lot of these heroes want to hit lane creeps. They give a lot more golden XP. And not only that, once you push in a lane, what ends up happening is the whole other side of the map opens up. Once an enemy morphling or their hard carry goes and pushes out the lane you pushed in, you're allowing your team to move in and get up vision around crucial parts of the map. And finally, the last point I'm going to go over is taking Rosh. Now, I made a video about what to do with Aegis previously, so if you're curious about what to do when you actually get the Aegis, check that out. But for now, let's go over why taking Rosh is the most underutilized play in all of Dota. For some reason, players in solo queue don't go for Roshan until they're like 8 slotted. Literally, you have to have a lone druid with 12 items before teams will walk into Rosh. I don't get it. It makes no sense. This objective is literally what pros play around to win the game. They will not go high ground. They won't even take fights until they have Aegis in some situations. So that should put it in perspective of why you need to just go take Rosh first off. But now let's go into a couple points that will either help you take Rosh or just are important to know when playing around Rosh or Aegis. First off, please put down sentry wards. It does 2 things. It scouts for invis heroes that might be trying to get in. It scouts for shadow blades, but also it scouts for wards. And whenever you're roshing, you want to know if the enemy team is coming or where you go in the first place. Second, identify targets that can disrupt your rosh taking ability. These, a few examples are Naga Siren Song, Clockwork Hook, Earth Spirit Roll, and like Storm Spirit Zip. Put your main priority on controlling them when it comes very close to either Rosh dying or when you're preparing to take the Rosh. If you can send them back to base right before you take Rosh, you know that is a very good opening for you actually to go for the Roshan and finish it off. The more you play Dota, the more you'll kind of begin to understand that Roshan can be taken much earlier than you think. You know, heroes like Ursa and Morphling with super early lifesteal can take Rosh from the 10 to 20 minute mark. If you get a DD, a lot of heroes can do it even earlier. Heroes such as PA, Morphling as we talked about, even Spectre. It's pretty insane how a lot of people just don't value things like DD runes to Rosh or a Vlad's timing or a medallion. Please, if it's 10 to 20 minutes in and you're crushing, this should be your number 1 objective. Easily your number 1 objectives. Because what it does is it allows you to take other objectives. Basically my best analogy for Rosh, it's like kindergartners, instead of just going to first grade, they just go to second grade for no reason. You know, you're probably from a country where what I'm saying makes no sense, but the point is, you can't skip a whole year of information and then learn the next. Something's gonna go wrong. You're gonna be missing something, someone's gonna die. Okay, hopefully you get the point. Next, if a game can only be thrown by being weak near Roshan and losing a fight there, then you should really reconsider, right? There's a lot of games where you do need to be very careful. If the enemy team is paying attention and it's going to take you forever to Rosh, there are some games where you genuinely can't take it, right? Maybe you have some terrible Roshing cores like Ember Spirit, Storm Spirit, Earth Spirit. That's your tri-core. And you just can't take Rosh. Sure, then wait for your 5 or 6 items. Right, then in those games, it's reasonable. As being low and trying to force it can actually straight up lose you the game because the enemy team is going to team wipe you, and not only that, get Rosh. That is literally worst case scenario. I see games where this happens, and I've even been in them, and you know the game's over. You just can feel it. You're like, okay, that is literally the end. We're done. We're done here. And finally, the last point of the video, hopefully you were still with me, but your Aegis carrier should be the one that utilizes the second life best. Typically, it's either the mid or the carry, and the decision to take the Aegis should be done before you go into Rosh. You should know when you start hitting it, who's going to take it. For example, if your team has a Faceless Void and Alina, Faceless Void will typically want it because in order to lose a fight, he is the hero that they need to burst, right? Because if they don't go on him, he's going to get a chrono off and win the fight. Maybe there's a Storm Spirit and he has infinite mana and he can basically go in and do whatever he wants. Or maybe let's say they have a Silencer and he can't go in at all until he has an Aegis. Then that is a great reason to put it on Storm. Basically, you need to identify what is your win condition and consider what actually is going to win me the fights. And let's say if we can't take a fight going high ground, who can siege the best? Those are typically your best 2 points to note. Alright, well I hope you guys enjoyed this top 5 video on plays to use in Dota. Hopefully this really kind of reconstructs your ideas on what you should be doing in the game, and in general in Dota on what you should be doing in the game, as I think a lot of people are mechanically fine in their brackets. Like, they have the mechanics to go up in MMR, but they simply just don't make the right plays, or they don't even consider these advanced ideas such as split pushing, or avoiding fights, or playing around wards. These are ideas that maybe you haven't even heard of before, so if you're hearing it for the first time here, I'm glad. Try them all out, and definitely write them down. Maybe keep it on a note in front of you, on your little notepad, as I'm sure you keep when you watch all my videos. So, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe. But before I leave you, I just want to let you know and remind you that over at gameleap.com, we have thousands and thousands of guides made just like this one by top tier pros so that you can learn the game of Dota in depth and gain MMR as fast as possible.